Shaquille O'Neal is one of those NBA legends who has built his platform even more since retiring. Shaq is easily one of the best NBA media personalities. Despite that, the four-time NBA champion can still say some pretty surprising things. Shaq doesn't think that MVP candidate LUKA Doncic is one of the best young players in the NBA. I mean, that is just ridiculous. So let's take a look at what Shaq had to say, as well as figuring out just how good LUKA can actually be. Shaq's comments. Being one of the most prominent members of the NBA media, Shaquille O'Neal faces a lot of questions about basketball. One thing that people always love to know about their favorite former star is what they think of today's NBA. It's just the sort of question which can bring out some strange answers from the greats of the game. So, no one was massively surprised when on a recent episode of the Stephen A. Smith Show, Shaq was asked about who he believes are the best young players in the league. There were some names on the list that you would certainly expect. French phenom Victor Wembanyama and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander were two of the first people that Shaq mentioned. He also professed a preference for Atlanta Hawks shooting wizard Trae Young. Shaq also likes Anthony Edwards, the #1 overall pick, improving a lot in his first 4 seasons in the league. Shaq even gave some props to a couple of guys making their name in the league. He spoke about Alperen Sengun and Jaime Jaquez, who are both impressive despite neither being lottery picks. The more surprising thing about what Shaq said was the player that he failed to mention. In the list of the best young players in the NBA, Shaq failed to mention Dallas Mavericks superstar LUKA Doncic. LUKA is already MVP candidate at 24 years old, and it looks like a matter of time before he is named the best player in the league. Now, that is pretty shocking to hear. Let's take a look at the potential that LUKA has, as well as whether he deserves to be on the list. LUKA's potential. When you talk about young players, potential is the word everyone focuses on. It is always hard to predict where players are going to be when they are at their best. But with LUKA Doncic, it is a little bit easier. For one thing, he is currently in his 6th season in the NBA, so we have seen some great examples of LUKA at his best. He is a genuine triple-double threat every single night, being able to do it all on the court for the Dallas Mavericks over the last few years. He is 3rd in triple-doubles over the last 5 years, behind only a couple of former MVPs in Nikola Jokic and Russell Westbrook. At 6'7", LUKA is a solid defender. His length makes him such a hard matchup for opposing guards. The thing that really makes LUKA elite is his scoring. Just last season, he averaged 32 points per game while shooting an insane 50% from the field. To score that many points at such a high rate is truly elite stuff. A pretty good 3-point shooter, LUKA can make his own shot with ease. He has really slick handles, and it makes him a nightmare matchup for defenders. If you double him, he has the court vision to find the open man and set him up for a good shot. He is a position-less guard, and there are only a few players in NBA history who you can closely match him to. It is not ridiculous to say his play is similar to Magic Johnson, with LUKA putting up better scoring numbers right now than Magic ever did. That was in a very different era, and LUKA has got a long way to go to become an all-time great like Magic. But there is no doubt his potential is sky high. The issue for LUKA at the moment is that he is doing all of this on some pretty bad Mavericks teams. A trip to the Western Conference Finals in 2022 showed how good LUKA can be at his very best, but his Mavericks missed the playoffs the following year. Considering just how exceptional LUKA has been in his early NBA career, his NBA playoff potential is still a long way off. So does Shaq have a point leaving him off the list of the most exciting young players in the NBA? Let's see how he compares to the guys Shaq included. Comparing him to the players Shaq prefers. There is not a huge amount of points comparing LUKA to Victor Wembanyama, Zion Williamson, or Alperen Sengun. Those guys play completely different positions to LUKA, and Shaq didn't pick them over the Mavs guard. However, there are 3 players in similar positions that Shaq mentioned over LUKA. The first is OKC Thunder guard Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Shaq has built his career in OKC nicely after failing to impress in LA. That rebound means that people often forget Shaq was in the same draft class as LUKA, just taking 8 picks later than he was. Despite having the same number of seasons in the league, LUKA has been to 3 more All-Star games, been named to the All-NBA First Team 3 times more, and is averaging more points, rebounds, and assists per game than Shaq. The Thunder guard just does not have the long list of accomplishments that LUKA has. Maybe you can make a case for Shaq providing the much more exciting basketball, but there is no way that right now the Thunder guard is a better basketball player than LUKA Doncic is. Another guy in the Paris draft class who gets a lot of comparisons to LUKA is Trae Young. It's not just the fact these two guys were selected just to pick apart, but it's also the draft day trade which swapped the two around. LUKA ended up in Dallas and Trae ended up in Atlanta. Shaq expressed his love for the Hawks guard without mentioning LUKA. The stats paint a very favorable picture for the Mavericks guard. He is averaging more points and rebounds per game than Young. There is a good case to be made that Trae is the better facilitator as he averages more assists per game. But LUKA puts up more contributions on defense and he has got way more personal accomplishments than Young. I think most fans are pretty aware of the fact that the Mavericks won this trade. LUKA is the better all-around player and he is managing to do more for his team than Trae is for the Hawks. I get that Shaq likes the way he plays, but it is nowhere near the all-around NBA professional that LUKA is right now. The last guy that Shaq mentioned is a little more difficult to compare to LUKA. Anthony Edwards came into the league in 2020 as the first overall pick. But what Edwards has done over the last 4 seasons is showing he is one of the most exciting guards in the league. Edwards' stats do not compare well to LUKA in his first few seasons. Edwards has taken a little bit longer to adjust to the NBA, but he is still an exceptional scorer, averaging 26 points per game. One of the things that helps Edwards' case is that he is currently playing on a much better team. LUKA is still the better player than Ant for sure, but this is one of those cases where it is a little bit more subjective. Can LUKA really be elite? Despite the numbers that LUKA is putting up, there are still concerns about whether he can truly be an elite player. For one thing, the stats mean a little bit less when they are coming at the cost of his team. Last season might have been a career high for LUKA, but it was also a terrible season for the Mavericks where they ended up missing the playoffs. Things have improved slightly this season with Kyrie Irving contributing big numbers to his team. But they are currently still sitting just 7th in the Western Conference, a long way off getting home advantage in the first round of the playoffs. LUKA has shown that he can take his team far into the playoffs before, but the NBA Finals has eluded him. Having seen youngsters like Jason Tatum, Devin Booker, and DeAndre Ayton go to the NBA Finals in the past few years, LUKA needs to find the year when everything clicks and he shows that he can truly be an elite player, not just a really good one. So what do you think the ceiling of LUKA Doncic is, and was Shaq right to leave him off his list? Put your thoughts in the comments down below, and while you're down there, hit that like button and subscribe. Thank you for watching. We will see you guys next time.